My reading this morning is by Wendell and is titled, I Go Among Trees. I go among trees and sit still. All my stirring becomes quiet, around me like circles on water. My tasks lie in their places where I left them, asleep like cattle. Then what is afraid of me comes and lives a while in my sight. What it fears in me leaves me, and the fear of me leaves it. It sings, and I hear its song. Then what I am afraid of comes. I live for a while in its light. What I fear in it leaves it, and the fear of it leaves me. It sings, and I hear its song. After days of labor, mute in my consternations, I hear my song at last, and I sing it. As we sing, the days turn, the trees move. So now what I've been worrying about for about a month starts. Before reading some of the poetry of Wendell, let me tell you a little something about him. Wendell was born August the 5th, 1934 in Henry County, Kentucky. And he's an American novelist, poet, essayist, environmental activist, cultural critic, and farmer. Many of Barry's agrarian themes closely identifies with rural Kentucky. Families of both his parents have farmed in Henry County for at least 5 generations. In 1965, Wendell and his family moved to Lane Landing, a 12-acre farm that he had purchased, and began growing corn and small grains on what eventually became a homestead of about 117 acres. Wendell has farmed, resided, and written at Lane's Landing ever since. His work, The Dream, gives me a feeling of what the land meant to him. So this is The Dream by Wendell Berry. I dream an inescapable dream in which I take away from the country the bridges and roads, the fences, the strung wires, ourselves, all we have built and dug and hollowed out, our flocks and herds, our droves of machine. I restore then the wide branching trees. I see growing over the land and shading it the great trunks and crowns of the first forest. I am aware of the rattling of their branches, the lichened channels on their bark, the sap of the ground flowing upward to their darkness, like the after image of a light that only by not looking can be seen. I glimpse the country as it was. All its beings belong wholly to it. They flourish in dying as in being born. It is the life of its death. I must end always by replacing our beginning there, ourselves and our blades, the flowing in of history, putting back what I took away, trying always with the same pain of foreknowledge to build all that we have built, but destroy nothing. My hands weakening, I feel on all sides blindness, growing in the land on its peering bulbous stalks. I see that my mind is not good enough. I see that I'm eager to own the earth, to own men. I find in my mouth a bitter taste of money, a gagging syllable I can neither swallow nor spit out. I see all that we have ruined in order to have, all that was owed for a lifetime to be destroyed forever. Where are the sleeps that escape such dreams? This feeling for the land, I used to get the same feeling from Pat Farquhar, who used to be a member of the church when she lived here. Every Friday, Sammy and I would have Pat over for dinner and a movie. Pat's family were also farmers who had many generations in Ohio. During our conversations at dinner, all you had to do was ask Pat about her growing up in Ohio. All of a sudden, Farmer Pat was having dinner with us. For me, her stories were something to look forward to, and I made it a point to find some way to get Pat to talk about her growing up in Ohio. Pat has recently moved to Ohio and is in a care home very close to her family where she grew up. But I sure miss Pat. Wendell's next work tells us about how he feels about our use of the land for burying our dead. It's called The Farmer Among the Tombs. I'm oppressed by all the room taken up by the dead, their headstones standing shoulder to shoulder, the bones imprisoned under them. Plow up the graveyards, haul off the monuments, pry open the vaults and the coffins so that the dead may nourish their graves and go free, their acres traversed all summer by crop rows and cattle and foraging bees. I sometimes have the same feeling about death. I tell Sammy that if I die before she dies and they cremate me, I want her to go out to Año Nuevo and find the place where there's going to be, during the breeding season, one of the most active harems in breeding, and to scatter my ashes in this area so that I can be part of that process going on at Año Nuevo. Sometimes I wish it were possible for my dead body to be placed somewhere in the wild, where animals could feed on my corpse and the earth would benefit from my chemicals. It's not going to happen, but there are other alternatives. Talk to Sue and Al about an alternative. I guess it's in Purísima Cemetery. You want to mention something about the alternative?
Purísima, where people are buried in the ground without a casket, or if it's a casket, it's biodegradable. That's where we're going to be feeding the ground.
Anybody else? Know any other alternatives?
There's actually human composting that is very similar to that. So they put you in essentially like a bale of hay in like a box, and then they turn you every week, and then in just over a month, you've turned literally into dirt.
Yeah, I heard Recology was having another garbage bin that was for bodies. So you just put it. They pick it up every week.
California State just passed a bill that actually permitted human composting, I believe, in the year 2027. So we're getting there. Just around the corner. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Washington State has it, so definitely lots of places.
Okay, good. Wendell also made his feelings known about the Vietnam War. I'll read this one to you. It's called Against the War in Vietnam. Believe the automatic righteousness of whoever holds office. Believe the officials who see without doubt that peace is assured by war, freedom by oppression, truth preserved by lying becomes a lie. Believe or die. In the name of ourselves, we ride at the wheels of our engines. In the name of plenty, devouring all, the exhaust of our progress falling deadly on villages and fields we do not see. We are prepared for millions of little deaths. Where are the quiet, plenteous dwellings we were coming to, the neighborly dwellings? We see the American freedom defended with lies, and the lies defended with blood. The visions of Jefferson served by the agony of children, women cowering in holes. Would have made a difference to me if I had read Wendell Berry back in 1965 when I joined the Air Force, and that was during the Vietnam. Would I have believed what Wendell said about our government? Back in my days, which goes back a long ways, nobody questioned going in and serving your country. It was a good thing to serve your country. But what we learned about during that period of time was the country wasn't serving people that went in to fight. What I believe now is that conscientious objectors should not be persecuted for their beliefs. They should be thanked for their courage to say what they believed about war. I hope our government didn't hear me. Okay. I was hoping you weren't. Wendell's next work describes something that I wish might happen to me. It's called Do Not Be Ashamed. You're probably wondering why a lot of these things that I'm reading have nothing to do with farming and trees and everything else, but for some reason this was, as I've read Wendell over the years that I've known him, these stick in my mind more because he questions things that I've taken for granted, or he says things that I don't even think about. And this was one of them. It's called Do Not Be Ashamed. You will be walking some night in the comfortable dark of your yard, and suddenly a great light will shine around about you, and behind you will be a wall you never saw before. It will be clear to you suddenly that you were about to escape and that you are guilty. You misread the complex instructions. You are not a member. You lost your card or never had one. And you will know that they have been there all along, their eyes on your letters and books, their hands in your pockets, their ears wired to your bed. Though you have done nothing shameful, they will want you to be ashamed. They will want you to kneel and weep and say you should have been there like them. And once you, excuse me, and once you say you are ashamed, reading the page that they hold out to you, then such a light as you have made in your history will leave you. They will no longer need to pursue you. You will pursue them, begging for forgiveness. They will not forgive you. There's no power against them. It's only candor that is aloof from them, only an inward clarity, unashamed, that they cannot reach. Be ready. When their light has picked you out and their questions ask you, say to them, I am not ashamed. A sure horizon will come around you. The heron will begin his evening flight from the hilltop. My last upbeat reading is one of my favorite readings of Wendell Berry. And probably many of you know what that one is. What I just read, Do Not Be Ashamed, it had a sentence in it, the heron will begin his evening flight from the hilltop. The heron is also mentioned in my last reading. Want to guess what it is? It's called The Peace of the Wild Thing by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my child's life may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their life with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. And that's the end of my upbeat readings for the day. And it's up to you. Sammy.
We were talking